What is going on, internet? Welcome back to SBS. My name is Sean. We are actually going to be picking up this episode right where we left off from the previous episode because I filmed too much content to put into one, so I split it in half. But we're just going to be finishing off the bodywork and basically getting this thing ready for paint. So stick around if you like to critique people's lack of experience with bodywork. So it's actually the next day. I ran out of time last night, but I've already started doing some work. Did another pass of 400 grit sandpaper, getting it ready for our glazing putty. And yes, I am using Bondo. Don't use Bondo, man. I don't really care. I just want it to look decent. This isn't a Lamborghini or anything like that. This is just an SUV so that my wife and I can drive our daughter around. It doesn't have to be amazing. So I'm gonna use our glazing putty to go over all the little pinholes and any of the marks like this where I wasn't able to have the actual body filler overlap properly. So I'm gonna fill that in with glazing putty and fill in the tiny little spots. And then we can get to our final sanding and primer, sand, and then sand down the rest of the stuff. Now I realize I said that I didn't really care that I was using the Bondo glazing putty, but after sanding it down, I did not like how that material applied or sanded. It actually had a very sawdust-like feeling to it after it dried. You could basically poke it with your fingernail and it would almost pit or crack a little bit. So I did not like that at all. I sanded it all off and I actually got some Napa stuff, and that's not a plug for Napa. But as it turns out, when I was talking to the Napa rep, he told me that, I don't know if this is true, the Napa polyester body glaze is actually manufactured by Eastwood. Half the price. I found that it applied to the body much better and it sanded really well. It didn't crumble at all. It didn't have a strange texture to it. It actually feels very solid, very firm, filled in the majority of pinholes. There's still a few that I need to do after priming, but it applied very well, sanded well. So I'm glad that I switched from the Bondo glazing putty to the Napa glazing putty.
Let's go.
So you saw me painting up some brackets. These are actually 2 new brackets. What happened was, off camera, I tried lining up the new fender on the car with the existing brackets that I had tried bending back into the appropriate shape a few episodes ago. I wasn't able to get the perfect shape, as you can tell. That's how it was, and that's how it's supposed to be. So yeah, I had to buy new brackets, and that actually took a little bit longer to get in, which is why there was a little bit of a delay from this episode and the one previous. So now that I have these new ones primed and basically ready to go on the car, I'm going to try lining up the new fender again, because when I tried it with these old brackets, there was about a 1/2 inch gap from the side of the hood to where the side of the fender should be. So there was just a massive gap, and there's no way that would pass. So new brackets, gonna line them up now, and then basically test fit all of the pieces on the front of the car, and then hopefully everything lines up. Now, I know this gap right here seems really big, but there's actually a screw that I could not get in the back there. I'd have to take the door off to do. But I'm not gonna do that now because it's not necessary. Because if you look at the body lines actually line up. And that's the biggest thing, because if the body lines didn't line up, then that meant that there was something really bent out of shape here. But it's all just the bracketry that you can bend. Like it's all flexible anyway, so that you can push it into position of where you need it lined up. And same with this, the one bracket I just have pushed in a little bit more, so I can, you know, bring it out a little bit, and then I can push in there. This is the only section that I'm not concerned with, just I'll have to play more with. There's a screw that goes into the fender here, and then it's also riveted to this trim piece like that. I'll have to play with this a little bit more, because it looks like this whole section of the fender needs to be pushed up and this way just a tiny bit and close this gap, and then that should also technically close this gap up as well. And then it would also move the the fender away from the hood. So this line would be consistent all the way through, and it'd also get it away right there at the bottom. So as far as how it lines up now, it's actually not bad. I like it. So I'm not gonna bother messing around with it anymore from here, because in an effort to try and save some money while working on this thing, all of the interior trim of these body panels, I'm actually gonna be painting myself. I went over to a local Napa store or whatever and got the paint code matched paint. Now, it's not gonna be absolutely perfect and identical. That's okay though, because this is just for the interior trim pieces, so that when I get this vehicle painted at the paint shop, they're only doing the exterior body panels. They don't have to remove anything. They don't have to open the doors and do all inside the seals and everything. I'm doing that all on my own. I got just the spray cans of the paint match paint, and that should be enough to do both driver's side doors, the interior trim piece of the fender and along the line of the hood, and as well as a bumper. And everything else, they're doing the exterior of. So that will actually save me some money in the long run, even though it cost me a couple $100 up front for the paint and the clear coat and the 2-part urethane primer. But in the long run, as long as I save additional time and resources from the paint shop, because their time is far more expensive than mine, because I'm doing this all for free out of my own pocket. So for free out of my, that doesn't even make sense. So now I'm going to take the fender back off and I'm going to paint along the trim edges of the fender, as well as the inside of both doors for the passenger, for the driver's side. And then I'm also going to do this section all in here and try and blend that in. And then when it goes to the paint shop, all they have to do is just tape off the door and then go all the way back. So now I just need to finish sanding on the doors, then prime them, and then paint the interior skin of them as well as the fender. And then we should be able to take this thing over to the paint shop and have it painted in the next week or two. I don't know how long it's gonna take. I don't know if they're busy, but that's actually all gonna be in the next episode. I said before, I'm gonna try and make these episodes shorter, so I'm cutting it here. If you like what you're seeing, if you enjoy watching me just waste money on something that I could have just gone and bought a vehicle that runs, hit that like button. Or consider subscribing if you really enjoy watching me fail. I'm on Instagram. You can check me out at SBS Cars if you want to stay in the loop and see things that happen before they get to YouTube, because it actually does take me a long time to put out an episode. This is not my life. I have a job, I have a wife, I have a daughter, and this. So check me out on Instagram, like, subscribe. I will see you guys in the next episode.